Everything can be a canvas. Such an inspiring quote, am I right? You'd think the person who said this would be someone as great as Van Gogh, or as famous as Picasso. Contrary to that, the genius who graced me with such a inspiring statement was none other than a kid in kindergarten who was drawing with crayons on a wall. Unexpected. I'm not saying a kid can't be great, but it certainly wasn't what I was expecting, right? Pursuit, by definition, means the action of following someone or something. And what better story to tell than my persistent attempts to chase after a passion for art? Cliche, I know, but bear with me. I will mention 3 experiences ranging from my early childhood to who I am today, based off of visual arts, performing arts, the stolen moments when I in fact was not supposed to be doing art, sorry mom, and what I gained from this experience. The feeling of a hold of a paintbrush was no stranger to me when I was a little girl. Every day, I'd wake up early to doodle and go to sleep past my curfew, thinking of what I could draw the next day. I would spend all day and night with different ideas in mind, a new medium for every new day. Nothing had stopped my thirst. Different supplies were never an obstacle either. I could always find a new way to create a new work of art. For example, if my parents took away my pencil, which has happened before apparently, I would gather a piece of lead and doodle with it. If I lost that piece of lead, I would gather some eraser dust and form a pattern with it. And if that eraser dust got thrown away, I would use my nails and scratch the nearest surface to me to create a picture. What a little rascal, am I right? I was not really a good kid back then. Of course, time never got in my way. Different schedules were never a bother. Even as I was supposed to be eating lunch or in the car, I still drew no matter what environment I was in. Rain or sun never dimmed the fire that burnt inside of me. In fact, I could even argue that the change in environment had fanned these flames of passion. With every new shift, a new idea popped into my head. I could practically see pencil strokes in the blades of grass, and different swirling colors in the blur of heat. All of these had served to heighten my passion, encouragement for me to keep moving on. And that fire I mentioned earlier, it had stricken a warmth within me. A feeling of a home without a location. But nevertheless, reality, it's cruel. We all can agree on that to an extent. It's just as cruel as a white crayon on a blank piece of paper. It's bland and strict. Moving up to middle school was one of the biggest turning points in my life. Not because it was a different part of the campus and I get lost trying to find my classes, speaking from personal experience here, yikes. But because there was a different schedule where we got to choose the classes we wanted to take. Isn't that exciting? Now, judging from what I've said before, show of hands please, how many of you assumed I'd take art the moment I got into middle school? I wish. That's what I can say for now. There's one factor I have yet to tell you and what I have failed to consider at that moment. Have any of you have ever heard of the stereotypical third Asian family? Right, their standards are nothing short of strict. A is for average, B is for below average, D is for don't come home. Classic. And the thing with this is that the main prominent factor of that is that they absolutely despised art. Not a good look for me, is it? And my family was no exception. However, all of you should know one thing. I was not a patient girl at that time, not when it came to something that I actually liked. I was determined to find some sort of loophole. And that's when I discovered it, a new type of art I have yet to try, something I snuck past my parents. Performing arts, ladies and gentlemen. In 6th grade, I took piano out of curiosity, and in 8th grade, I joined drama because I lost a bet. However, I can safely say today, I regret none of those decisions. In band, I had learned the ways of the flute. I learned how the keys of the instruments could produce sounds that flowed across the auditorium in such a smooth way. And in drama, I learned the art of theater. I learned how the words that practically spilled out of my mouth could accompany my movements as I drifted across the stage, telling a story I thought I never could. Both were a canvas of their own, and both had reminded me of a feeling I once saw, a very familiar feeling indeed, of the brushstrokes of a paintbrush as it glides across a paper, a feeling of home without a location. Now, at some point, I feel like I would have convinced you. Everything can be a canvas. I just mentioned 2 types of art that could be applied to a canvas, correct? The orchestra and the verses had brought color back into my life without the paint I used to be so familiar with. It had reignited a little spark I thought I had once lost. And yet the fuel to the light of my life was short-lived once more. As, whoop-de-doo, middle school only lasted 3 years. What a shocker. Before I knew it, I was up and about and ready to go to high school, which meant more responsibilities and less time for me to spend with my beloved paintbrush. And what creative ideas I could have had. One day, I sat in front of my graphing calculator, dejected as any artist would be in the situation. I had no way to get out of it this time. I was in math class now. No loophole, back into the world of swirling colors and brushstrokes. I took a look at my calculator, and it almost seemed as it took a look back at me. Suddenly, a very familiar quote popped into my head. All of you know it. Everything can be a canvas. You all could probably guess what happened next. It escalated from there. Now, I took this formula I got off of Google. I used it as a base. And then I experimented with it, see what I could make. Of course, eventually it got messy, as any artwork would. Yeah. However, notice how it is basically the same equation, but I just swapped a couple of letters and symbols around. Eventually, I got this. And sure, not the grand scheme some of you were hoping for. However, it had meant a lot to me. Back then, at the very least, I had managed to draw something out of math. An artist's worst enemy, or at the very least, my worst enemy. My grades were horrible. And as high school started, the hunt for accomplishments to fill out my portfolio started along with it. My parents have taken notice of my very persistent attempt to chase after a passion for art. Love you, Mom. And decided to give it a shot. Competition after competition, I came back with the trophies and certificates my parents had sought out for. I walked away with that metallic gold and #1 hashtag within my grasp. But as I walked away from that studio, I walked away with not only certificates that I could show off to universities or to gain bragging rights, but I walked away with a canvas to paint my own future. A heart full of fire undiminished, and a feeling of warmth, a feeling of home without a location. As all of you can see, I have gained my passion today. And the one thing the audience can take away from today is 1, never give up, and 2, disappoint your parents. However, I have found my own passion. I hope everyone here today will find their flame too. Thank you for listening.